Здравствуйте, дорогие слушатели. Мы продолжаем наш цикл лекций внутри образовательной программы Всероссийской олимпиады школьников. И сейчас я рада представить вам нашего уже третьего спикера Кази. Да, вопросы можете задавать по ходу лекции. Презентация будет на английском языке. Good afternoon.
Afternoon.
Yeah, you can introduce yourself and start.
All right. Can I start? Good afternoon, everyone. It's my really pleasure to be with you. And so far, I came to know we are the talented students in Russia at the national level. So it's really my great pleasure to be with you. So my name is Kazi Sohag, and I did my master's on econometrics and PhD on environmental economics from the National University of Malaysia. Then, after 1 year, I joined here, Ural Federal University, at Graduate School of Economics and Management, and here I have been teaching econometrics. And beside Ural Federal University, I have some other affiliation in some other universities, like in Australia, Southern Queensland University, University of Technology Malaysia, and King Abdulaziz University in Saudi Arabia. And particularly, I am a scientist in Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change under United Nations, so where I have been working on the climate change issues. So I think I can go to the next slide. So today I will be talking about this subject, the prospects and challenge of Russian business and economy in achieving National Development Goals 2030 in the context of global shocks. So the global shocks here I'm going to include that the future hydrocarbon economy. I'm sure you know what is hydrocarbon economy. That's the reliance of economy on mainly the natural resources. Then in the context of sustainable development goal and COVID-19 pandemic, there's also global shocks and the geopolitical risk. So since you are the Russian citizen, of course you know what is the country's national development goal, like what the country wants to be in by 10 years. So I'm going to just remind you some information and the country's stand and the feasibility of achieving those goals. So whether it is feasible or not, and what are the main challenges for achieving these goals in the context of the global economic shocks. So let's talk about the national development goals of Russia. So in 2020, the Russian president announced Russian development goals. So it includes a number of national projects. Those are adjusted with the 2030 national development goals. And those goals are very much in line with the sustainable development goals. So mainly Russia has a 5 national development goal. That's a broad 5 national development goal. Under these broad goals, there are some sort of objectives. So since these goals are very much in line with the sustainable development goals, so we can just recall what are the sustainable development goals, if you can remember. There's no poverty, then justice, then environment, and those, you know, the quality of education, institutional qualities, renewable energy or the cleaner energies. So these are the goals. So where the Russia economy stands, that's the question, and whether it is really feasible to obtain these goals or not. So the first goal of the national goal of Russia 2030 is the good health and well-being of the population. That's the broad goal. And under this broad goal, there are some specific objectives. The specific objectives are the maintenance of the sustainable growth of population. Since perhaps you know that Russia is experiencing a kind of a negative growth of population for the various reasons, mainly for demographic structure, the gender ratios, and so on. Then another specific goal is the increase the life expectancy to 78 years. So if you can see the diagram below, now the Russian life expectancy is increasing from 2000 till now, 2080, as a very smooth upward trending. So that is a good news. But still, the country life expectancy is around 73 years. So by 2030, the country want to achieve this goal that life expectancy should reach by 78 years. And the population growth, concerning the population growth, if you see the first diagram, that it is declining from 2000, sharply declining. Then from 2007, it is slightly increasing. So that's a big threat for the economy and the future labor, because first of all, the Russia is a very vast country in terms of the territory, while the population density is very low. So in order to promote the economy, you need labor. So if the population growth is declining, that's a really threat for the future labor market of Russian economy. And the third specific goal is the decrease in poverty rate by half based on 2020. So poverty rate or poverty definition, it varies from country to country, region to region. But perhaps in Russia, they define the poverty rate when the per person income is roughly 12,000 ruble. That's the poverty line. So by 2030, the country want to reduce poverty rate by half. So present, I think it is 12%. So if it is half, so it should be 6%. So that's the plan. Then another specific objective is the increase the share of people doing sports systematically up to 70%. There is no much talk about it. So now let's see what are the Russian plans or strategies to achieve this goal and whether it is feasible or not. So this is the diagram from one of my ongoing studies. Some of the students are doing with me, the fertility rate. So perhaps you know that to increase the fertility rate in Russia, the Russian government, federal government is providing around 100,000 ruble to the parents if they are going to have a second child. So it is introduced in 2007. So after 2007, the fertility rate is slightly increasing, but it varies from the age group of the mother. So the good thing or bad thing, I don't know, but if you see the fertility rate of the lady aging from 15 to 19, it is declining. But the good news is that the fertility rate of the women, the age from 25, 20, 29, and also 40, 45, it is slightly increasing. Till 2018, I mean, from 2018 also slightly it's declining, but perhaps that can be defined by any macroeconomic context. But along with the federal stimulus package or incentive, capital incentive to the mother, also regional government also providing some sort of support, financial support, but I think it varies from the region to region. So this is a common phenomena that fertility rate is almost declining for the age group of the mother from 15 to 19, but rest of the groups is slightly increasing. But this is whether it is sustainable or not, that's a questionable. Perhaps the government should find out a better mechanism to increase the fertility rate. Then the second and most important goal is the opportunity of self-realization and support to the talented people. That's very much concerning with you guys. So what are the specific plan for under this goal? That the country, Russia Federation, would like to reach the top 10 countries in the world in terms of the quality of education. That's a good plan. So then form an effective system to identify, support, and develop the talented children and youth based on the principle justice aim at self-realization in the professional sphere. Then provide the presence of Russia in the top 10 countries in terms of the research and development, and create the condition to upbringing social responsibility people, the moral values, culture, historical tradition, and increase the share of people engaged in the volunteer activities up to 15%, and increase the number of cultural event visit 3 times compared to 2019. So what is the important thing to talk about here? That is, Russia would like to reach top 10 countries in terms of the quality of education and in terms of the research and development as well. So there are so many things to talk about these two objectives, specific objective, whether it is feasible or not. I also can share my personal opinion. How do I feel staying in Russia when I see the education system here very closely? Well, based on some sort of ranking, you can see where the Russia stands right now. So in terms of the quality of education or education opportunities, so now right now Russia holds 36th position in the world. So first United Kingdom, then United States, Australia, and the Russian stand is 36. So Russia would like to reach top 10. That's a good plan. And how the country is achieving towards this goal, that's important. So if you see in terms of the university ranking, that's making a good progress. So from 2018 till 2021, if you see the Moscow State University is making a good progress and could secure the position 74 in the world. That's a good thing. And also Novosibirsk State University, High School of Economics, Ruden University, then our university, Ural Federal University. These are the universities are making a good progress over the year. So now they could come up with some good position in the world ranking. But still, in order to secure the top 10 education quality in the world, there are so many things, a long way to go. This is what I feel. And in terms of the research and development, you can see these slides. So the first country is Israel, that is the research and development expenditure share of GDP, and Russian position is 33. But so far I know the government is trying very hard to promote the research and development activities by providing many research grants from fundamental research grant, and there are so many grants they are providing the university for the research activities. So if you can see this current statistics of the country of Russian Federation, so over the time the university engaged in research and development also increasing smoothly. So number of organizations engaged in R&D activities also increasing. Number of researchers having a scientific degree, it's a kind of fluctuating, but from 2015 it is declining. I don't know the exact reason, whether it is somehow related with the economic sanction or not, particularly since it's declining from 2015. Maybe it can be related with the country's political environment or the geopolitical issues with the economic sanction or something like that. And expenditure of science also it's increasing. That's good things. But what I feel about these two goals, I feel both of the goals are very highly ambitious, to secure in the top 10 position in the world. Though there are many strategies or initiatives to achieve those goals, but the main problem I feel like, our main problem or the challenge of those universities, that is in terms of obtaining the presence of the foreign students. So if the country can really recruit or take many talented students from around the world, and especially in PhD level or master's level, then the research activities will be promoted. Also the international scientists or the faculty members. So in order to do so, the bureaucracy quality of the country has to be improved, so that when the foreigner comes into the countries, they have enough opportunities, and also the language barrier should be minimized. I think when I was teaching my students, so I often find that language barrier, especially English. So this kind of things has to be removed or addressed. That is very important. And if we look at this other country, the top 10 countries in terms of the education quality, like USA, Britain, or Australia, so when the foreign students are going there, they have a vast opportunity, not only the education, also the job opportunity, part-time job, and also the scholarships. So these are the very driving factors to promote the foreign students and the foreign faculty members to have a knowledge spillover, so that they can transmit their the knowledge to the local students or local faculty members. So this is how the research activities should have a spillover effect. Then the third and very important national development goals is the comfort and secure environment. So I can go through the specific objectives. So a specific objective is to improve the living condition of the at least 5 million families annually, and increasing housing construction to the at least 120 million square meters per year. So that is very much related with the welfare of the people. Since it is living conditions, so it is necessarily the housing conditions. Then improve the quality of the urban environment by 1.5 times better quality. So better quality meaning the air quality, water qualities, then transport systems and other things. And the share of the road network at least 85% in the urban agglomerations. Then they create a sustainable system of solid waste disposal, ensuring sorting of the waste amount of 100%. So there is some sort of, it's called circular economy, like utilizing this waste in the production process like that. Then they decrease the hazardous emissions, like mostly carbon dioxide or the nitrogen oxide, that have a very negative impact on the environment or the human health. So the Russian economy would like to decrease the carbon emission by half in order to ensure the low carbon economy or the fostering the green growth. Then ecological improvement of the that is also importantly the water objects, and the government has a special plan to improve the water quality of the Volga River, the Baikal, and some other lakes. So these are the national goals that directly are in line with the Sustainable Development Goal concerning the better environment or the climate change action. So these are the mitigations approach to reduce that human-induced hazardous or the bad effect on the environment or the negative externality, you can say. So what happening to the Russian economy in terms of this objective? So this is also from one of my studies about the carbon emission. This is the regional carbon emission, if you can see. It is almost constant over the time. Some regions is slightly decreasing and some regions are slightly increasing, as you can see the carbon emissions. But one of my studies shows that this is a study we try to see the impact of the economic growth, whether this economic growth is let's say very environmental friendly or it is harming the environment, since this issue is very much paradoxical. Like if the economic growth, if you want to increase the economic growth, then meaning that you have to use the more energies, and if this energy is not clean like fossil fuel, then it's going to have a lot of carbon emissions. This carbon emission is they are going to in the atmosphere, and as you know, it is absorbing the sunlight, and these are the reason for the global warming. So the whole world is fighting. That's why there are so many government level agreement like Kyoto Protocol, then Paris Agreement, then Sustainable Development Goal. So that is one of the global agenda to reduce the negative effect or the negative externality of economic growth, especially carbon emission, since carbon emission is the main driver for the climate change. So this study we focused on Russian regions, whether the economic growth of Russia is having a positive impact or negative impact on carbon emission. So there is a theory, it's called the environmental Kuznets-Karp theory. So the theory is saying that initially when the economic growth is taking place, then carbon emission also will go up, will increase. But after certain level, a threshold level, a further economic growth should reduce the carbon emission or the negative externalities. So we found that when per capita income cross 500, I don't know, 1,000 maybe per year, when it cross it, then a further per capita growth is basically helping to reduce carbon emission in the context of Russia. That's the good news. And it is happening because recently there are many movements, especially in the industrial sectors. The industrial sector is trying to replace the better technologies. So these technologies are the fuel efficient and environmental friendly. So because of these initiatives and government policies, so further economic growth, the marginal impact on carbon emission, it is some sort of negative. So that's the good news. And also this diagram shows that ecological footprint and biocapacity, what is the Russian stand? That's something of very good information. So I don't know whether you know about the ecological footprint is all about or the biocapacity. Okay, let me talk about these two terms a little bit in detail for better understanding. So ecological footprint meaning that the economy demand for the natural possession or natural resources and the rate of waste. Okay, so that's all together is an ecological footprint, meaning the demand on the nature, demand on earth, demand on forestry, demand on water, demand on air, and the rate of waste by human being. So that's the ecological footprint. And biocapacity meaning that whether the country, the territories, the rate of producing natural resources. So at what rate it is producing natural resources and absorbing capacities of all the waste. So ecological footprint is opposite, and biocapacity is the capacity of the nature for producing those natural resources. And luckily that's the good news that the Russia is enjoying that environmental balance. Biocapacity is higher than ecological footprint. Only few countries having this kind of a characteristics. So Russia is one of them because Russia is a very vast land, big territory with a small population, and there are a lot of reserve of the forest. So that's why the biocapacity of the country is still higher than the ecological footprint. You can see that the world map. The red color shows that where the ecological footprint is very high, compared to biocapacity. But in that regions, the big region, if you can see, there's the Russia, and the greener is, the most greener part is, I think, the Brazil, because of the Amazon forest, and they have a lot of forest. But most of the countries, if you can see the red shades, meaning they have a higher ecological footprint than the biocapacity. Then what concerning the fourth goal of Russian national development goal, that is relating with the economy. So the goal is the decent work and successful entrepreneurship. In order to achieve this goal, they have a number of objectives. One of the objectives is to ensure the economic growth, meaning GDP growth, above world average while maintaining macroeconomic stability. This specific goal to me is a very diplomatic, in a sense that they didn't mention the figure, that what figure the economic growth should be in Russia. So they make it diplomatic way that it should be more than average of the world economic growth. So it is in the safe side, because if there is a global shocks like pandemic, so most of the economy are suffering. So the growth, the Russian, this plan or this promise, they cannot keep their words if there is a global shocks. But in terms of the economic growth, the maintaining that is more than average is a very diplomatic way to say. But anyway, that's fine. To maintain a good economic growth, that should be more than average of the world economic growth and macroeconomic stability. Then specific objective is to ensure sustainable growth of population income and level of pension, indexation not lower than the inflation level. I think that is a good thing, because if there is an inflation that the people are getting the pension, they can lose their purchasing power. So the government always should consider the inflation. They should adjust whatever the transfer payment to giving to the people, that should be the real transfer. About the third objective, the real growth of the investment in capital stock at the level not less than 70% compared to indicators of 2020. The real export growth of non-resources, non-energy products, at least 70%. That's a very good plan, I should say, to diversify the economy and increase the number of employment in SMEs, small medium enterprises, including entrepreneurship of 25 million people. That's a 25% of employed people working in SME, including entrepreneurships. So these goals are hitting the decent work and economic growth and the no poverty of the Sustainable Development Goal. So now let's look at the Russian economic outlook. In this diagram, you can see that economic growth is always fluctuating. So that's a big concern about the economic stability. About the per capita income, well, it's slightly increasing. That's a good thing. But this is highly challenging to ensure that economic growth is more than average of the world economic growth. So I will come to these points, what the Russian economy should do in order to do so. About the people involvement in small medium enterprises, that is very promising. It is increasing, and also investment in capital stock is increasing. So these two goals or objectives is not a very challenging or not very big deal to achieve. Regarding international trade, though the economy is highly rely on the natural resources, so the country is the net export. Export is around 30% with some sort of fluctuations, oscillation, and the import is roughly 21% right now of share of GDP. So, but the very shocking news or sad things or the very challenging aspects of Russian economics is the income distributions. So this is a very fantastic or the shocking diagram, if you can see. This is the distribution, income distribution of the Russian people. So in the red line, you can see the share of income top 1% people. So top 1% people, their contribution to economy or GDP is more than 20%. So that's a high income inequality, I should say. And top 1% people, their share of income is around 45%. So that's a big, almost 50% in some point of time, like 2009. So more than 50% income goes to top 10% people. And bottom 40% people, their share of income in the national income is less than 20%. So in order to have sustainable economic growth, the Russia must need to focus on this aspect to reduce income inequalities. So the economic growth should be more inclusive. Okay, so now the Russian development, this is the last development goal. That's a digital transformation, achieving high digital level in key industry of economy and social sphere, including health, education, public administration, increase the share of socially significant service accessible in electronic form to 95%. I think it will improve the bureaucracy quality when everything is online, so it will improve the bureaucracy quality of the country and the public service delivery, I believe. Then increase the share of households provided with the ICT facilities and internet access to around 97%, increase investment in the domestic IT product 4 times compared to indicator of 2019. So as you can see, the share of people having access to internet is increasing. So it is roughly 80%, which is good enough. So that's all about the Russian national development goal. The Russia economy would like to achieve it by 2030. Now, whether this goal, how much is resilience to the external shocks. So what are the challenges that Russia should think about it? The first global shocks, I will be talking about the hydrocarbon economy, the resilience of Russian economy to oil market. So if you can see this diagram, the contribution of the natural resources to GDP. So the line at the above, you can see it is the total natural resources range to GDP. It is more than 50, right now it is more than 15%. So in 2022 or 2021, its share was more than 25%, the contribution of the natural resources, and mostly it is from the oil and gas. So meaning that this is a dramatic enough, let's say 10% is a very big figure, and total is a 15%, the contribution of the natural resources to GDP is a very big, very big ratios. And natural resources is always very much exposed with external shocks. Why it is external shocks? You can see here that the hydrocarbon revenue and fiscal stability of Russian economy. So over the time, this blue line, it shows that oil and gas revenue, the government revenue, is roughly over the time more than 50%, about 55%. In some point of time, it came down around 30%. So when this revenue is declining, that the government is facing a budget deficit, meaning government expenditure is going to be higher than the government income. So that's a big threat of relying on the hydrocarbon economy, natural resources, gas and oil. Because any shock in the global market, oil market and gas market, the Russian government is facing some sort of a problem with the budget deficit, meaning their expenditure is going to be higher than the revenue. And this is from one of my research paper that we try to see the sensitivity of the exchange rate to the oil price. If you can see that oil price and Russian exchange rate is a highly correlated, meaning anything is changing the oil price. When the oil price is going up, that then Russia experiencing the exchange rate evaluation. In contrary, when oil price is going down, there is a devaluation of the exchange rate. And this diagram, it shows the sensitivity as well. So it is highly negative. So when the price is increasing, there is an evaluation of the local currency, ruble, and when the price is declining, then when the price is increasing, the exchange rate is evaluation, and otherwise vice versa. So what are the challenges here basically? The challenges is that Russian economy need to find out an alternative source of income, because firstly, the oil price is the subject of fluctuations with many global shocks, geopolitical shocks, then pandemic. This is during the pandemic, the oil price gone down historically. There is a oil price plunge, even it was negative. So then what will happen to the Russian fiscal sustainability if the oil price is going down? And there is a study from IMF that 2050, the world is heading towards the renewable energy. So they would like to ensure that 50%, at least 50% energy should come from the renewable sources, from the solar or wind. So if it is really the world can ensure that share of renewable energy 50% into the total energy mix, it indicates that the demand for the fossil fuel, oil and gas or coal will decrease. So particularly many Russian regions, particularly in the northern regions, fully rely on the natural resources. Therefore, this economy need to diversify the economy and to reduce the reliance of the natural resources by promoting the private sector. So in order to promote the private sector, the economy should to foster the financial market and labor market as well. So the labor is skilled and try to find out some alternative sources and promoting SMEs and service sector or industrial sectors. This is how to diversify the economy. What is the country's resilience to pandemic? The Russian economy is hard hit by the COVID pandemic, so that is also making it very challenging for achieving the national development goals. So during this pandemic, the unemployment rate increase is become 6%. So, but still it is there is a shadow of doubt that how long the economy will take for the full recovery, because tourism and the mainly service sectors there is a hard hit by the COVID, so there need a very strong recovery plan. So the government stimulus package, those industry are suffering a lot. And regarding the economic outlook, though the Russia economy wanted to achieve more than the economic growth, more than average of the world economic growth, but in this year, this is projected that economic growth will be negative around 5% growth. So it's a negative 5% or 4% economic growth. And GDP per capita also is coming down. If you can see the last spike, that's the red spike, is coming down significantly. It is going to be even less than $10,000 USD. So the thing is, here is the challenge, that how far the economy can recover and ensure the economic growth that the government is promising. About the hydrocarbon revenue and fiscal stability also during the pandemic, if you can see the last portion of the diagram, starting from March or May 2020, that the hydrocarbon revenue, the revenue from oil and gas is significantly declining, and that government budget deficits come down historically. In the last month, I mean October 2020, that deficits is become around 4,000 billion ruble. That's a big amount. That's a historical big amount deficit of the government. Then regarding the response of Sustainable Development Goal, the Sustainable Development Goal, so as I said earlier, if the renewable energy is going to replace the fossil fuels, and then that's a big concern for the Russian economic development ongoing process. So this is very urgent that economy should find out an alternative solution in order to reduce the dependency on the oil by promoting private sectors. So in order to private sector, that is very necessary to have a financial market development, meaning that if the local entrepreneurs are going to initiate any business, make sure that they have enough financial support to have a startup. So that's a very important issues. And the geopolitical risk, well, this is a very big topic. So in some aspect, Russia has an advantage about the geopolitical risk, and some aspect the country is highly exposed. But I will talk about a very few portions. So this diagram shows some geopolitical risk, the world geopolitical risk, the high spike, some sort of invasion in the Arab country, mostly the oil exporting countries. But what exactly Russian stand to the geopolitical risk? This, if you see this Russian exchange rate, it was almost stable from 2000 till 2014, around roughly 36 or 34 ruble per USD. But this red line, the vertical red line, shows that the economic sanction after the Crimea issues, the Crimea accession. So when the West, they imposed the economic sanction on Russia, the exchange rate significantly increased. So the country experienced a devaluation of the local currency, and it reached to around 64. So that's a very big figure. And the second vertical line, during the pandemic, when pandemic started, oil price plunged. Also, the exchange rate increased from roughly from 70 to 80 ruble per USD. So it shows that the country economy is highly exposed with any geopolitical shocks. And the same thing about the hydrocarbon revenue to respond to the geopolitical risk and pandemic. If you can see that government revenue from 2014, that vertical line shows that economic sanction. So after imposing the economic sanction, the Russia is receiving the government particularly receiving very less revenue than before. And during pandemic, it came down significantly. So the government fiscal sustainability is highly exposed with the geopolitical risk and the pandemic or any external economic shocks. So that's why these four aspects, four global shocks are very challenging. So the government need a very smart or very smart strategies to achieve those national development goals concerning these global shocks. So that's all about my lecture. If you have any question, I'm open for you.
So I think we don't have any questions right now, but maybe some guys can ask you maybe in our YouTube translation. But now I think that's all.
All right, thank you very much for your patience. I wish you all the best. And if you choose to pursue your study Ural Federal University, I hope we can meet in future. Have a good day.
Thank you. Bye.